The last time I did a BBC, I started a topic that was one that's been really good for me to reflect on. And it was about, I think they called it the qualities of a Dharma student. It was in November 7th. And this is a topic that is based on, the teachings on it are based on a verse by Aryadeva. And it's basically a topic where there's three qualities that we want to develop as a student. And I wanted to talk first about the title that Lama Tsongkhapa gave this section, because when I saw that the title that this talk was given last time, I thought, yeah, that's a good title, Qualities of a Dharma Student. But then when I looked at the title that he had, and I didn't really get what it was, why he wrote it the way he did, but he's always very succinct with his words and very intentional. And he calls this defining characteristics of the student who relies upon the teacher. So there are Dharma qualities of a student that have nothing to do with relying on the teacher, but there are three essential ones that you have to have to rely on a teacher successfully. That's what Lama Tsongkhapa is saying, going back to the verse by Aryadeva. And just to review a little bit from last time, the main reason this is so important is that you could find a qualified teacher, but if you don't have these three qualities, you won't really see them in that light. Unfortunately, our own faults will cause us to see, not recognize virtues for what they are in the teacher, and see faults that actually aren't, and things like that. So that's a very important issue. And so these three qualities, I'll read the verse from Aryadeva. The first translation is, "It is said that one who is nonpartisan, intelligent, and diligent," those are the three qualities, "is a vessel for listening to the teachings. The good qualities of the instructor or the teacher do not appear otherwise, nor do those of fellow listeners." And then another translation says, "A straightforward, wise, and interested listener is called a suitable vessel. He does not distort the virtues of the teacher nor those of the disciples." So basically, there's just slight differences in translations of these three qualities. And today we're going to talk about the first one, which is one way is translated as being nonpartisan and the other as being straightforward. And basically, these translations come from the text by Lama Tsongkhapa and then the commentary on it by Geshe Sopa. And those are the various translations they use for that term. And they actually come to the same point, but it's interesting to see how they get there and what they say. So Lama Tsongkhapa says that nonpartisan means that you don't take sides. So it's a mind that doesn't take sides. If you were partisan, and this I think is the key point, you will be obstructed by your bias. You'll be obstructed by your own bias and won't recognize good qualities. So when I look at my mind, yes, that's definitely what goes on. And then if you aren't able to recognize the good qualities of the spiritual mentor, then you're going to miss the meaning of the teachings. So that's kind of the consequence, one of the consequences. When Geshe Sopa describes this, he talks about it differently, and I think first he kind of describes it in terms of maybe how he interprets people that have this difficulty, when that difficulty is in the mind. He says, first, they should have an honest nature. They should not be devious, cynical, or trying to find faults in their spiritual teacher. So then he goes forward to say that when he talks about being straightforward or having an honest nature, he's defining this as impartiality. So the mind that is partial means that he describes it as you're attached to your own system of religious doctrines and you have anger or hatred towards other religions or other systems of Dharma. But when I apply it to my own mind, I don't really have necessarily formulated systems. I'm not that sophisticated. But I do have the the mental factors that he's talking about that get in the way. And I would say for myself, it would be more like attachment to my own ideas, attachment to the way I think things should be. It would be the mind that's always ready to take issue with something, that mind, whatever it is, X, Y, Z. So that's why, when he talks about taking sides, so being nonpartisan means not taking sides, not having the mind that falls that way, kind of like as a default sometimes. So then he advises us, Geshe Sopa advises us that before you listen to teachings, check your mind out and see what mental states you have going on. And then if you find this attitude, cast it away. I think Venerable Chodron, I didn't have time to look back into this, but I think she sometimes describes this quality as being open-minded. And I think that works pretty well. So Bhava Viveka comments on this verse as well, and he talks about that this mind that's taking sides is always distressed, and you'll never know peace. And you can see that when you have that kind of thinking on board, your mind is kind of distressed, it's agitated, you're quick to judge and things like that. So Geshe Sopa says the mind is tormented by partiality, will never know peace. And so then the question is, what kind of peace are they talking about? And when they explain that, they actually restate the disadvantages as well as bring out the consequences of this kind of mind. So if you're partial, prejudiced, whatever, you can't see the qualities, the good qualities of a spiritual mentor, their positive qualities, you will not seek, nor will you understand the meaning of what they're teaching you. Your mind just won't. You're like, you've exited left and checked it off and like, I'm not, that doesn't work for me. I have my own way of thinking about this. It's not an open mind that's curious and interested. It doesn't mean you have to believe everything that the teacher says, but we're talking about the mind that can't actually hear clearly because it's obscured, biased. So what's the consequence of that? You can actually then never realize the truth. And if you can't realize the truth in the Dharma, then you're never going to be liberated. So this is the one that they give the most explanation for of the three qualities. And I thought I would just kind of keep it short today and do the other two qualities next time. But just as a reminder from the last BBC, which I fleshed out the kind of the context of this a little bit more, just to remember that Lama Tsongkhapa says that when we find these states of mind, we need to, if we have the positive states of mind, like we're nonpartisan, then we should rejoice in that. But if we find we're falling short of that, then we need to do something before this life ends, is what he says. And I think there's a reason he says that. So I think that's really good advice and good for us to look in our mind, like the one winter retreat when we studied the mental factors. This reminds me a lot to think of this in that way, like you study the mental factor, you see the different qualities of it, the different descriptions, then we discussed it, or you could contemplate on it, think about it, read about it, see it in your mind, and then see what the opposite are, so that we can either enhance our positive qualities or chuck out the ones and lessen the ones that aren't so positive.